Okay, so the next thing, once you've put a bunch of stitches on the needle, I like to put, I don't know, I mean, it's not quite 4 inches worth of stitches, but close enough, whatever. And so what we're going to do is knit what's called a gauge swatch. And what you're doing is you're knitting, you're trying to figure out how many stitches per inch, in 1 inch of stitches, how many stitches do you have in 1 inch, right? And that's important if you want to make something you're going to wear. If you want it to fit, you want to make sure that it's, 18 inches, that you have the right number of stitches on your needle before you start. So here's the knitting part. We've cast on, you've seen the cast on video, replayed it over and over again until you kind of figured it out. So you cast on a bunch of stitches. I think I've got 24 stitches. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, so you're going to take your first stitch. That's the last stitch that you cast on. This will be the first stitch that you start to knit. Stitches are on your left hand. Working needle is your right hand. So again, we're going to do like we did before, like when we cast on stitches. But this time, instead of going all the way through the 2 legs, we're just going to go through 1 leg. This is the knitting part, is 1 leg. So you go through 1 leg, you wrap around, you pull it through, but instead of pulling this out and making a stitch, this stitch right here, this little bad boy, that's coming off the needle. So you pull it off, and can you see the little chain here? This is a little chain that is now attached to this chain that you made by connecting this piece of yarn. See how I can move it back and forth? So that is your first stitch. And try not to have the death grip from hell and pull too tight, because once you make your stitches too tight, you won't be able to get the needle back in there. Ask me how I know that. Okay, so just pull it enough so that you can get the needle through there, but it's not like going to fall off too much. So that's the first stitch. Then we go through the second stitch. The second one is easy. The first one is always the hardest. So the second stitch, you go in from front to back, wrap around, and again, try not to hold this too tightly, just gently enough so that you can pull the yarn underneath, push it through, and off the needle. Now, there's a lot of people have cutesy little sayings, in through the front door, once around the back. I forget what the third one is, and off jumps Jack. Whatever, there's all kinds of kids who make very clever little sayings about once around and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, but there is basically 4 steps to doing it. It's in, it's around, pull it under, and off. And once you start knitting, you'll see it makes these little V's. See the little V? And those are the number of stitches per inch that you're trying to get with your gauge swatch, right? So when you knit a bunch, I mean, this is totally not what you're supposed to do, but you can start to see the little V's. And so you will count how many V's that you're getting in an inch. So we're getting like 1, 2, 3, 4 and a half-ish. But that's there's not enough stitches on here really to do that. I just wanted to tell you what we're doing. So just try to find the major thing is try to find how you want to hold the yarn, how you're going to do the wrapping part, how you're going to, and once with wool, it's sticky enough that when you do that, it'll stay there. It'll be fine. You don't need to put too much pressure on it as you pull it under, go up a little bit and off. And make sure, see how my needles are like crossed in an X shape? They always stay in this X shape, no matter what that I'm doing. A lot of people will, they're not used to holding, this is not a natural, unless you're like, oh, I am a little puppet talking to each other. But it's not a natural hand placement. So people feel awkward with this. But try not to do this. I see people try to knit like that, and then you're like, wait, which needle am I wrapping? I don't know where I am. Try to keep it. The right hand needle is in the back. The left hand needle is in the front. And all of the wrapping and pulling under stays in this X sort of shape, right? And keep the needles. Try not to put your yarn like way down here. Like, I don't know how, I've seen people try to do this. Like, this is not gonna work. You have to have your needles. See how there's, so the needles are straight, and then they come down to this taper. Try to keep your work right at the taper, right at where you're putting the needle in, right? And just keep it, just practice doing this. Just practice holding it on, practice feeling what it feels like to wrap yarn around, and just do each step. Just take each step as it comes. If you need the other finger to help push it through, hold on stuff, put it in your lap, put it on a table. A table is really good for holding everything on. So if you put it on the table, then it won't won't fall off, and you won't feel like it's, out of control. So just try to get a sense of how to control it. If you want to wrap your fingers around, for me, I can go very fast, when I wrap the thing, or if you want to do one of these or whatever, just find your Zen space. Okay.